He is now being accused of obstructing justice, witness tampering, and so forth.
Now that Diddy's trial is officially underway, the situation appears to be rapidly unraveling against him. Shocking new revelations are emerging, and reports indicate he may be entangled in attempts to interfere with witnesses and hinder the legal process. Things are rapidly unraveling in Diddy's trial, and the latest developments are nothing short of explosive. Reports are now surfacing that he may have committed perjury, lying under oath, and the judge isn't taking it lightly. In fact, insiders say Judge Aaron Subramanian is growing increasingly furious, and if the momentum continues in this direction, Diddy could be facing a life sentence far sooner than anyone imagined. In this breakdown, we'll dive deep into the chaos that erupted in the courtroom on Thursday, May 8, 2025, a day that marked a turning point in the high-stakes legal battle surrounding the music mogul. What began as a routine pretrial hearing quickly spiraled into a courtroom bombshell that shook everyone in attendance. Judge Subramanian, who's been overseeing the proceedings since the early stages, found himself at the center of an unexpected firestorm when prosecutors unveiled new evidence contradicting Diddy's prior sworn statements.
Now, the issue with that is Diddy is currently locked up at NDC Brooklyn. He's been housed there since September.
So he could have got paid off. He could have got promised something.
For those closely watching since jury selection began on May 5th, tensions were already sky-high. Opening arguments were slated for May 12th, and the courtroom had been buzzing with anticipation. But the mood shifted drastically when it was revealed that Diddy, legally known as Sean Combs, might have lied during earlier testimony. The alleged falsehoods revolved around communications with witnesses, a point of contention that has been central to both the prosecution's narrative and earlier bail hearings. According to newly introduced evidence, while detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, Combs allegedly circumvented monitoring protocols by using the phone accounts of at least 8 other inmates. Prosecutors say he orchestrated 3-way calls to reach individuals who were not on his approved contact list, directly violating prison regulations. The courtroom tension hit a fever pitch when a potential juror revealed they currently worked at MDC Brooklyn, the same facility where Combs has been held since September 2024. The coincidence stunned everyone present, with audible gasps and even bursts of nervous laughter breaking out over the sheer absurdity of the situation. With perjury allegations now in play and evidence of witness tampering stacking up, Diddy's legal team is in crisis mode. The trial hasn't even formally begun, and yet the pressure is already threatening to crack the foundation of his defense.
I remember hearing the words, "Prove your loyalty to me, King."
The judge didn't waste a second. In a bold and immediate move, Judge Aaron Subramanian dismissed the juror with ties to MDC Brooklyn and delivered a rare public rebuke to both the prosecution and defense for their failure to properly vet potential jurors. The courtroom fell into a tense silence as he underscored the gravity of the charges and the critical importance of strict procedural integrity in a case of this magnitude. But that moment was just the beginning. As the hearing continued, prosecutors shifted the focus from the juror oversight to what they described as a troubling, calculated pattern of deception by Sean Diddy Combs. They alleged that the music mogul had deliberately misled the court about his communication with key witnesses, including individuals who had been subpoenaed by a grand jury. One of the most damning claims involved repeated contact with Kena Harper, a former associate. Court documents indicated that between September 10th and September 14th, 2024, just days after a civil lawsuit was filed by Dawn, Richard alleging assault and abuse, Combs contacted Harper 58 times. In total, there were 128 interactions before the communication abruptly stopped. Prosecutor Emily Johnson argued that the messages weren't just casual conversations. She stated that Combs had tried to cultivate sympathy and sway testimony, suggesting that the victim's involvement was consensual and tied to continued financial support. Johnson accused Combs of deploying intermediaries and spreading misinformation in what she called a calculated effort to gaslight witnesses. These allegations aren't just ethically troubling. They could spell real legal trouble. If proven, they point to a serious obstruction of justice, deepening concerns already raised in prior bail hearings. Back in November 2024, Judge Subramanian had denied bail after citing credible evidence of witness tampering and violent tendencies. That decision had followed an earlier bail denial by U.S. Magistrate Judge Robin Ternowski on September 19th, who ruled that Combs posed both a flight risk and a potential threat to witnesses, an assessment that was later upheld by Judge Andrew Carter Jr. The prosecution's case has been gaining steam, with Combs facing a sweeping federal indictment that includes racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transporting individuals for prostitution. The charges paint a picture of a long-running criminal enterprise spanning from 2008 to 2024. Prosecutors claim Combs ran a violent and coercive operation involving kidnapping, forced labor, bribery, arson, and obstruction. But what happened in a court on May 8, 2025, may have altered the stakes even further. As allegations of perjury emerged, legal experts noted that lying under oath in federal court is a standalone felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison, on top of any penalties resulting from the existing charges. The real blow, however, came when Judge Subramanian announced that he would be referring the matter to federal prosecutors for possible new charges, including perjury and obstruction. In a dramatic turn, he also revoked certain procedural privileges that had previously been granted to Combs and his legal team. Citing what he described as a pattern of deception and contempt for this court, the judge's actions sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Observers said the move was virtually unheard of in such a high-profile case. By narrowing the defense's legal options and placing Combs under even tighter scrutiny, Judge Subramanian has effectively boxed in the strategy his attorneys might pursue heading into opening statements. As the hearing wrapped up, it was clear to everyone present that this wasn't just another procedural formality. It was a pivotal moment. What began as a routine pretrial session had transformed into a dramatic turning point that could shape the entire trajectory of the trial set to begin May 12th. And these developments echo earlier accusations. Philip Pines, Combs's former executive, assistant from 2019 to 2021, previously described in a lawsuit and media interviews a culture of manipulation and coercion under Combs's leadership. Pines' account seems increasingly consistent with the federal allegations now unfolding in court. What's certain is that the tone of this trial has fundamentally shifted. Judge Subramanian has made it clear, any attempt to manipulate or undermine the legal process will be met with swift and severe consequences.
Freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
Alcohol, marijuana, ketamine, baby oil, and Astroglide were very important. Candles, incense.
In his lawsuit, Philip Pines alleged he was coerced into engaging in sexual acts as a twisted display of loyalty to Sean Diddy Combs. One particularly disturbing incident involved being pressured to sleep with a woman during what was referred to as a Wild King night. Pines also claimed he was tasked with cleaning up after these hedonistic parties, which, according to his testimony, frequently devolved into drug and alcohol-fueled marathons featuring marijuana, ketamine, baby oil, Astroglide, incense, and candles, events he described as freak-offs that sometimes spanned several days. While Pines' claims were initially seen as tangential to the broader criminal case against Combs, the explosive revelations in court yesterday have cast his allegations in a new light. Prosecutors now argue that these claims support a broader narrative of manipulation, coercion, and abuse of power, one that includes efforts to interfere with witnesses and deceive the court. Judge Arun Subramanian's sharp rebuke in court came after prosecutors presented evidence that Combs had not only misrepresented his contact with witnesses, but may have also been involved in behavior bordering on jury tampering. The discovery that one of the potential jurors worked at MDC Brooklyn, the same facility where Combs has been held, triggered immediate concern. While there is no confirmed personal connection between Combs and the juror, the oversight by both the defense and prosecution in failing to flag such a glaring conflict was enough to provoke a fierce response from the bench. Subramanian made it clear that the integrity of the trial was paramount, and he expressed alarm at the possibility that these seemingly isolated missteps might be part of a calculated pattern of interference. As prosecutors continue to build a case around perjury and obstruction, it's becoming evident that the lines between Combs's public persona and the darker allegations laid out in court are blurring in ways that could drastically shift the outcome of the trial.
Get this far.
Yeah, how did he get to the point where he's coming in front of the court and this is being put on record? Not only does it not look like, it doesn't look good.
The latest courtroom bombshell in the ongoing case against Sean Diddy Combs has only added fuel to an already raging legal fire. Hot on the heels of accusations that Combs had misled the court about his contact with witnesses, a new incident, has pushed tensions to the brink. As one courtroom observer put it, the situation has become a perfect storm of judicial fury. Prosecutors have alleged that Combs and his legal team have been engaging in deliberate tactics to delay and obstruct justice. One such attempt came on April 18, 2025, when his attorneys requested a 2-month adjournment to prepare for trial, an ask they initially masked as a mere 2-week delay. This followed a third superseding indictment filed on April 4, 2025, which added new charges of sex trafficking and transportation for the purpose of prostitution. Judge R.N. Subramanian, however, wasn't buying it. He swiftly denied the request, noting that Combs had ample legal representation, at least 4 attorneys, and that the trial date of May 5th would remain unchanged. He also made it clear that the court would not entertain what he called a fishing expedition for additional evidence. Yesterday's hearing brought these simmering frustrations to a full boil. The judge's demeanor shifted as prosecutors outlined a broader strategy of manipulation and deceit, suggesting that Combs' misstatements about witness contact were part of a calculated effort to destabilize the judicial process. As allegations of perjury mounted, legal analysts described the mood in the courtroom as extraordinarily tense. The judge's decision to refer the matter for potential perjury charges marked a serious escalation. Federal perjury, a felony, carries a sentence of up to 5 years per count, an added layer of jeopardy on top of already grave federal charges. Combs is facing accusations including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transporting individuals for prostitution. The case alleges that from 2004 to 2024, Combs ran a criminal enterprise that used threats, coercion, and influence to force women into sexual acts during so-called freak-offs and Wild King events. If convicted on all charges, Combs could spend decades in federal prison. But the more immediate concern for his defense team is how this credibility crisis might influence jury selection. Even though jurors are instructed to remain impartial, the fallout from these public revelations could skew perceptions. The judge's move to revoke previously granted procedural privileges has only added to the legal team's burden. Though details remain under wraps, experts speculate that the restrictions could limit the defense's ability to file motions or introduce certain evidence, critical tools in navigating a case of this magnitude. The timing of this upheaval is particularly damaging. With opening statements set for May 12th, Combs' legal team has precious little time to regroup. The cloud of judicial disapproval now hanging over the defense complicates their ability to craft a compelling argument before the jury. Outside the immediate trial, yesterday's developments have reignited interest in the testimonies of other accusers. One such key figure is Courtney Burgess, who in an explosive interview with News Nation alleged he possessed video footage of Combs and other celebrities engaged in sexual acts, some allegedly involving minors. Burgess further claimed that some individuals in the videos were underage and drugged without consent. Combs has denied these claims and responded with a $50 million defamation suit against Burgess, attorney Ariel Mitchell, and News Nation. Additional complexity was introduced when a separate lawsuit filed in March 2025 named NFL star Odell Beckham Jr., comedian Drusky, and others as defendants in an alleged 2018 gang rape in Orinda, California. Both Beckham and Drusky denied any involvement, with Beckham stating he was not even in California at the time, and Drusky clarifying he was not yet connected to the entertainment world then. Though technically unrelated, these accusations have contributed to the cloud of scandal surrounding the case and added more volatility to the trial environment. Yet for all the external noise, it is Combs' courtroom conduct and credibility that now seem to lie at the center of this legal firestorm. According to legal commentators, yesterday's proceedings may represent a turning point, one that redefines the stakes. Former federal prosecutor Elena Michaels explained, "When a defendant is suspected of lying under oath, it's not just another charge. It cuts to the core of the legal process. It damages trust in a way that's extremely difficult to undo. This credibility issue couldn't come at a worse time." With a long list of serious charges already looming over him, and bail denied 3 times due to concerns over witness tampering and risk to public safety, Combs' path forward looks increasingly grim. His high-powered defense team, Mark Agnifilo, Tenny Garagos, Alexander Shapiro, and Anna Estvau must now not only defend against a sweeping criminal indictment, but also repair damage standing with the court. Strategically, the revocation of procedural privileges could hobble their ability to counter the government's narrative. Legal analysts say these could include limits on cross-examination, restrictions on filing key motions, or narrowed access to evidence, any of which could sharply reduce the defense's maneuvering room. Adding pressure is the upcoming testimony from other alleged victims, including former executive assistant Philip Pines, who has claimed he was compelled to participate in sexual activities to prove loyalty, one such night reportedly during a Wild King event. Pines' accounts, once considered peripheral, now bolster prosecutors' argument that Combs maintained a long-standing pattern of coercion, manipulation, and control. As the trial approaches its opening moments, the legal spotlight on Combs burns brighter than ever. What was already shaping up to be one of the most closely followed trials in recent memory has taken on an even more dramatic dimension. The courtroom is now not just a venue for determining guilt or innocence, it has become a battleground for judicial integrity itself. Into view. Pines also claimed he was tasked with the aftermath of these wild gatherings, events that reportedly featured heavy drug use, alcohol, and explicit sexual activity. His responsibilities, he alleged, went far beyond typical assistant duties, involving the disposal of narcotics, cleaning bodily fluids, erasing incriminating footage, and discreetly bribing hotel staff to maintain their silence.
I just thought to myself, if I don't do this, I don't know what's going to happen. This has all been a very psychological, emotional roller coaster.
In his accounts, Pines recalled rarely seeing Sean Diddy Combs engage directly in sexual acts during the alleged events. Instead, Pines claimed Combs would usually be behind the camera, orchestrating the scenes and filming them himself. Pines further alleged that he was instructed to clean up any incriminating evidence, erasing videos and photos from devices, sanitizing physical spaces, and ensuring nothing was left that could point to what had occurred. These claims mirror those made in several lawsuits now swirling around the music mogul, which prosecutors say illustrate a pattern of calculated manipulation and exploitation. Another key figure in the growing web of accusations is Adria English, a former adult film performer. In July 2024, she filed a lawsuit asserting that she was groomed into sex trafficking at Combs's lavish white parties between 2004 and 2009. According to English, she was compelled to take ecstasy and coerced into sexual encounters with guests. She also alleged that Combs leveraged his status and power to silence her, either by threatening her personal safety or using her aspirations in the adult industry as leverage. English's legal fight has encountered setbacks, including the withdrawal of 2 different legal teams by March 2025, citing irreconcilable differences and unprofessional conduct. Nevertheless, her testimony remains part of the prosecution's broader narrative. Complicating matters even further, the scandal surrounding Combs has entangled other celebrities. In March 2025, Ashley Parham amended her civil complaint to include high-profile defendants such as NFL player Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drusky. Parham accused them of participating in a violent gang rape in Orinda, California, back in 2018. Both men have forcefully denied the allegations, Beckham stating he was not even present in the area at the time, and Drusky noting he had no ties to the entertainment industry then and was not a public figure. Amid these explosive claims, Combs's credibility has become a critical issue. The flashpoint came when prosecutors presented phone records and witness statements contradicting Combs's sworn statements about his contact with witnesses. Evidence was introduced showing that while detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, Combs had used other inmates' call privileges to make unauthorized and unmonitored phone calls to individuals involved in his case, an apparent effort to bypass institutional safeguards. The discovery that a prospective juror worked at the same facility where Combs is being held only intensified concerns about the integrity of the process. Observers described the scene in Judge Aaron Subramanian's courtroom as highly charged, a moment of rare judicial intensity. The public nature of the proceedings underscored the seriousness of the court's concerns about perjury and obstruction. Legal scholar Priya Sharma explained, When a federal judge publicly rebukes a defendant for lying under oath, it signals not just concern, but a breakdown in the fundamental trust needed for fair proceedings. While judges are expected to maintain impartiality, such confrontations can influence procedural decisions, such as rulings on evidence and motion practice, in subtle but meaningful ways. For Combs's defense team, led by attorneys Mark Agnifilo, Tenny Garagos, Alexander Shapiro, and Anna Estvow, these developments present an urgent and complex challenge. Not only must they defend against serious federal charges, including racketeering and sex trafficking, but they must now do so under strained conditions. Judge Subramanian's move to revoke unspecified procedural privileges has further constrained their ability to maneuver strategically. Legal analysts suggest these revoked rights could involve limitations on certain filings, evidentiary arguments, or witness cross-examinations, all critical components in a defense of this magnitude. With trial proceedings set to begin shortly, time is a luxury Combs's legal team does not have. The pressure to rework a viable defense strategy under heightened scrutiny is immense, particularly as the government's case appears increasingly bolstered by a growing list of cooperating witnesses. One of those is Philip Pines, who continues to allege that he was coerced into sexual acts and assigned disturbing cleanup duties after Combs's notorious parties. The allegations stretch well beyond individual misconduct and instead paint a picture of systemic abuse involving layers of manipulation, coercion, and calculated intimidation. Prosecutors are expected to frame Combs not just as a participant in criminal activity, but as the architect of an enterprise designed to exploit vulnerable individuals while using his fame and resources to cover it up. Outside the courtroom, these revelations raise broader societal questions about how wealth and fame can shield powerful figures from accountability. Combs, once seen as an icon of success in music, fashion, and entrepreneurship, now faces a legal reckoning that could redefine his legacy. The accusations suggest that his empire was, at least in part, built on coercion, intimidation, and an unchecked abuse of power. As opening statements approach, the stakes for both sides have never been higher. What began as a criminal trial about racketeering and trafficking has evolved into a profound test of the justice system's ability to hold the powerful accountable. Whether this trial will mark the collapse of Combs's once glittering public image or expose a flawed legal narrative remains to be seen, but the impact of what has already unfolded in Judge Subramanian's courtroom will likely reverberate far beyond the confines of the case itself. Behind the closed doors of influence and power, serious questions now loom. Questions not only about Sean Diddy Combs, but about whether the systems meant to protect the vulnerable ever stood a chance against the force of celebrity and wealth. These concerns stretch far beyond a single defendant or one trial. They speak to a larger cultural reckoning around accountability, justice, and the silencing power of fear. Yesterday's courtroom revelations may mark a watershed moment for the eye. Many individuals who have come forward with allegations against Combs. For years, many say they stayed quiet, gripped by the fear of retaliation and a deeply held belief that Combs's reach would prevent justice from ever being served. Now, for perhaps the first time, the system has acknowledged the gravity of their concerns in a highly public and consequential way. As both sides prepare to deliver opening statements on Monday, attention turns to how Judge Aaron Subramanian will manage the complexities introduced by the dramatic turn of events. Having now raised concerns over potential perjury by Combs, the judge faces the delicate task of preserving fairness in a trial that is rapidly expanding in legal and social scope. Ensuring impartial proceedings in a case marked by public scrutiny, conflicting narratives, and allegations of deliberate deception is no small feat. The challenge for the jurors who will begin hearing evidence next week is equally immense. They will be asked to sort through disturbing and emotional testimony spanning 2 decades, testimony that demands both moral clarity and legal precision. At the heart of their duty lies a simple but profound task, determining where the truth lies. The judge's referral of Combs for possible perjury has now set off a parallel legal process, one that could continue even after the current trial concludes. This adds another dimension to an already intricate proceeding. Additionally, the judge's decision to strip the defense of certain procedural allowances has reshaped the trial's immediate dynamics. These changes not only pose logistical hurdles for Combs's legal team, but they have also reinforced the perception that the court will not tolerate any attempts to manipulate or circumvent justice. Yesterday's open court confrontation will undoubtedly echo through legal circles long after the trial ends. It has already changed the stakes and tone of the proceedings, pushing the case into new and uncharted territory. As the courtroom prepares to reopen next week, this once straightforward criminal trial now carries with it broader implications, legal, cultural, and moral. The central question has evolved from simply whether Combs is guilty of the charges leveled against him, to whether the court system can withstand the pressure of celebrity influence and maintain its integrity in the face of calculated obstruction. For Combs, a man who once stood at the pinnacle of music and business, the spotlight now burns with an entirely different intensity. It no longer illuminates record-breaking success or media dominance, but rather a story of alleged abuse, manipulation, and now, possible perjury. This latest twist in an already dramatic legal saga may ultimately be remembered as a defining moment, one that affirms a powerful message. In the eyes of the law, no amount of fame, fortune, or fear can override the fundamental demand for truth.